Greetings, my name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, licensed presenters, the Core New Core, my patrons. Thank you, my patrons, for making this possible. I need more of you to continue making it possible. So if you're listening to this, patreon.com, Michael Miller Pilates, of course, and sign up to be a patron. The more you're into it, it's like being in training, so embrace the karma of value for value. And then before value ever comes into it, or perhaps just driven by what comes from within, this broadcast is meant for anybody interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor. And Pilates is a word, the mother of 10,000 views of what that word is and what it means. MMP is just one point of view out of all those thousands, yours, mine, and everyone else's. So I'm not sure when I write down the title in Facebook, because I get to do that prior to making the broadcast, and I don't get to do that here in YouTube. The only title I have is In Pursuit of the Ideal. And yet, and then I was going to talk about the subject matter, hope they're okay, the subject matter being the stomach massage series. And then I sort of realized that the real title is Stomach Massage Series, because that's what we might have in common that you would be interested in, knowing what I have to say about it, to add to whatever it is you already know about it. So I'm pretty sure the title will be Stomach Massage Series. And then the MMP take on that, meaning Michael Miller Pilates, that point of view, a point of view, looks at it as part of an ideal progression of taking on load in the body and moving through space in an organized manner. And part of that manner, and this is, if you know the stomach massage, then I'm talking about a seated exercise. Having been supine, you come to seated, but the stomach massage series is seated on the reformer, Pilates V, and the out and the in is with the spine in flexion, a C curve, right? A curve. Now, in MMP, the C curve includes the ears in its attempt to be in a curve. So the head is part of the body, and where the head goes, if you're seeking uniform engagement, where the head goes makes a big difference, makes a sensational difference. And so the argument that I have for you about where the head goes, and that it's participating in a curve, and that curve is a curve of flexion in the first exercise of the stomach massage series, and that's because it's closest to center. And if one can then control that, the opening up of the curve into the ideal position of extension, straight extension, becomes a new definition in space, vertical. And so the out and in on the carriage in the second position, you're up and your arms are out, but your hips, shoulders, and ears are seeking to maintain vertical. Now, here's a good question for you. If MMP says, by definition, that it's a progressive pattern of movement, flexion, extension, side bending, rotation, and torsion, then why isn't there side bending before rotation in the in the stomach massage series, seated on the reformer? And my answer to that is twofold. One, it's not in any of Joe's original documentation, which is good enough in some, And the other is that, my interpretation, it doesn't fit. Doing side bending interrupts, so pursuing the progressive pattern at the expense of losing the flow, it seems that flow overrides whatever you might try to do side bending in that position. It just doesn't fit. So in the stomach massage series, you go from round back to flat back, and then you take that in twist out and in. And there too, it's 3 points on a straight line is what you're reaching for. The expression of the biology to be able to line up in space. And to the extent that we have a body, when we provide tension between 2 points, we get a sensation of alignment between those 2 points. And when we provide tension within a gravity field, whoa! Not only do we feel the alignment between the 2 points, but it makes gravity all the more apparent in what we're trying to line up in. Because we're stretching up and out into gravity. We're being tall and eccentric and lengthening. The means to the lengthening is through the engagement of core tension. That's what I'm telling you. And to me, you can find it experientially for yourself if you go looking and then have that knowledge about how core tension plays into what you're trying to do with your body. More exactly, what your body is trying to do with itself. Because MMP is just a name. It's a name for this oppositional rotation between axes in the body, the tension that comes out of that. And it's pointing to the human being that's evolved for millions of years. It's a big question of how much of a step is your mind willing to make in acknowledging the truth of the matter, the fact of the biomechanics, and that the body does engage itself that way. Now, if you're not willing to look at it that way, then don't. But this broadcast is for all those groups of people coming right down to you, the student, and hopefully the performer as a student, that you can move enough to pursue the doing of Pilates. So in the stomach massage, round back, are your shoulders held in place to reinforce the engagement between hips and its engagement between ears? Knowing that you're trying to put these 3 points on a smooth curve, and that the engagement itself between axes is what provides the lengthening going on. If you could cup someone's ears and have them release into how you would engage their muscles in their head, that releases and insurance and all of that. Be on guard. Be very protective of your intuition and all about letting an instructor invade your space and make physical contact and make a correction, which they're all good and they're terribly important, but they can be misleading to even the person seeking to implement. In knowing, in the searching, that you're trying to pull, you're trying to pull from your hips up and out through your shoulders into a smooth curve. You're seeking to shape a smooth curve, and the rotation around the ears is one end through the shoulders back to the hips. The hips are anchored, right? And there's a whole nother discussion about why the legs and how the legs, but moving on to side doesn't happen as a movement pattern because it doesn't fit in. It's not in any of Joe's original work that I know of, and if you want to show me contradicting original work, I'd love to see it. And I'd also question its authenticity. I would too if I were you. So no side bending. In the stomach massage, it goes from round back to flat back to twist. We agree with that, right? And all I'm saying in MMP is that in the round, the engagement of your musculature is how you are engaging yourself, and that the means to get uniform engagement in order to develop the body uniformly, Joe's words, contrology develops the body uniformly. In doing those exercises, for me as an individual, the thinking about idealizing the type of engagement I'm making and what I not only seek to do, but I find sensational feedback from. And that's the key to this. Core new tension provides feedback that you can feel. And in all of that, it provides then an understanding of the biomechanics of how the body engages itself to move through space. And coming from the perspective of surviving as a Pilates instructor, generally You're already deeply connected to the source within, and have developed your own capabilities of discernment. So recognizing that there is a pattern in stomach massage series, and that it's a progressive pattern, harder to do, harder to control. But in controlling, expresses the physics that we exist within. See, here comes two. You do Pilates to embrace the reality that you're in, not to subjectivize the reality that you're in for your issue. It's a gnat in my soup. So my comment here, doing Pilates is about the existential engagement with one's self. It's about the experience that you're in, and when you're in stomach massage, it's rounded back, and I have in my mind a projection from my imagination of how my body's engaging itself to do so most efficiently, just by virtue of what it has of what it's evolved into. Core new tension just points out what's going on in a creature that's millions of years in evolving. All I'm doing is pointing that out. And because nobody else is talking about this core new tension thing, I'm saying, hey, this is important to know. And this is just about biomechanics. And meaning that if you're interested in Pilates, well, MMP, which is a POV of Pilates, takes its POV right from this book and asserts that Pilates is an experience. And so that's a very narrow point of view to take, in that whatever you can call Pilates and it's within MMP, literally an experience. It's something that can be experienced. And from previous broadcasts, you know about where that all leads to. Excuse me for being so okay. So what Pilates is that? What lineage is that? MMP is that Pilates that comes right out of Joe's book. The book says that contrology is complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. And the MMP POV says that's an experience that you reach for, that you dive into your effort, that you take in with your effort and your movement, trying to control it. So my other notes go about the target and maintaining a focus and what am I about and what is this about. This is about the individual being able to coordinate their being, thinking, and their observing. And And that inherently means being present in the moment. Because the only way observing happens is if you're present in the moment. I mean, that's maybe no distinction to really be making. But you can just be a blob and be thinking and be lost in thought, right? Lost in thought. Or even completely directed in thought, but only in thought, see? It's the coordination of something beyond your thinking, like what's going on out there with the rest of your being, that matters to you as an individual. And so this target is survival. Why am I doing this? Joe is a survivor. His method was survival training. He called his method contrology, and he said his book is an invitation to return to life through contrology. All right, I'm going to make a better effort at this on Facebook. But where I'm headed and ending with it is maybe who am I and where am I going? Maintaining a sense of point of reference. There you go, point of reference. So if you want more of this, come to the same date on Facebook. Michael Miller, not just Michael Miller Pilates, but all my live broadcasts are on my personal page, Michael Miller. And it's open to the public. That's where I'm headed. Trying to do a better job of summarizing where I've been and trying to bring some conclusion or focus to where I'm going. Because life can't live forever. Read between the lines and see behind the curtain. Add the dots. Connect the dots. Then evaluate points of view, and from there know how to make an offer. Add two and two. Survive as a Pilates instructor, which this broadcast is about. What that means, I think, more coming up. Survive as a Pilates instructor. Add two and two. Know how to make an offer. Direct your thinking. Try to. Watch when you're just daydreaming, and watch when others are seeking to do it for you. Once you realize that it's you that can direct your thinking or make use of the thought process as a resource, the world is yours in a lot of ways. But it's up to you to what extent you direct your thinking. Geist